Hi everybody, welcome to the channel for new battle report. So this is game number 4 of the Bellum Lacum. As a reminder, previous round we won slightly, the round before we capped, and the first round we lost heavily. So we are like trying to climb up the table. We are facing another Swiss team that we are definitely going to target a big win, because if we get a big win we can definitely challenge for the podium. So let's see how that goes. I was paired against Adi, who is the Saurian ancient player. This is my list and this was his list. So basically what do we have? We have two big monsters, the Titanopod BSB and the Alpha Carnosaur. Then he has a Master Druidism, has a block of warriors with a Cayman, block of Cayman, and a big unit of Raptor Riders. Then he has a small unit of Skink, 2 times Spearback, 1 time Pterodon Rider as Chaff, and a unit of Stygosaur with the champion. So plenty of magic as we are used to with Saurian Ancient. We were playing Breakthrough on Frontline Clash, and below you have the spell selection of both players. I just forgot to mention the last spell he picked, I think was the 2d6 Strength 4 from Druidism. Matchup analysis. So the Carnosaur will not be easy to get rid of because of the MR against Occultism and R target 1 against my shooting. It could be a standoff game potentially, depending on how that goes, but we have similar combat power, I have the feeling. Use Slave to find openings. I have good tools to target Caimans, and I think here my prime idea is to focus on secondary. He hasn't so many scoring units. We both have 4 scoring units. So I'm thinking if I can block 1, block 2, then get my 3 around across the table, I could win it. So definitely going to play the drop game, not in a rush to start the game, see where he goes, where he plays his scoring units, try to block some of them, and target the fight in good condition. My estimation was a drawish matchup. Deployment wise, so this is already a picture after turn 1, sorry about that. But basically deployment wise, he won the roll for side and gave me the impassable, which is the wise choice. And then I elected to let him start to deploy. He plays like a unit of Pterodon. We exchange a couple of drops. So basically according to my memory, it will be, I think I started with Slave, then Anointed, where he plays, I think Razor, Stygosaur were quite early as well, Razor, and then, so Spearback, sorry, let's use the correct name. So Spearback, Pterodon were the first couple of drops, and also the Stygosaur. And after that, I had to place more significant unit. So I elected to drop for first turn, and I only got a +4 to start, which I lost the roll. So basically he was able to start the game, which wasn't too much of a problem, but just basically didn't allow me to start attacking the first on the table. So my deployment, Titan is here, Infernal Warrior, Great Weapon, the Bull, the Bastion, the Slave, the Incarnate here. So definitely expecting to push these slaves up the board and then get this space with the Incarnate. He plays Stygosaur on the left. They were facing forward, but then when he saw my deployment in turn 1, Spearback, Pterodon, Skinks, the BSB, Alpha Carnosaurs, the Cayman, second unit of Spearback. Then on the right has his main blocks. So on the far right, as you can see, this was a bit my idea. I think here it's very interesting to talk about deployment. It was definitely my idea when I dropped for first turn heavily on the left. I felt if he goes heavily on the right, it's not too enjoyable for him to push across the table, because Ruin, here there is an impassable, so basically to close that gap and push towards the middle is not that easy. You might suffer DTs, not so cool for him, and it might split a bit his push ability. So I can use the impassable and the train, the Ruin a bit against him. So I felt that was quite nice for me to basically force him to go on the right, or then he could have also dropped heavily on the left and try to face me, but he wasn't confident in doing that. So he went heavily on the right, which split a little bit his army in two, so we'll see how that evolves in the future turns. So his turn 1, he turned around the Stygosaurs, move away because I'm going to catch him. Uses the 2 single model to threaten me with the help of the Cayman, and the 2 units here just push forward but without taking DT, and they respect the charge range of my 3 Great Weapon Anointed for now. Yeah, obviously if I get the charge here, I might break his Steadfast and overrun into Breakthrough Zone. Might be very annoying for him, so he's aware of that, and he didn't want to take already some DTs on the Saurus. In the Magic phase, he got the regen on the BSB to protect his Titanopod. And that was it. My turn 1. I push heavily. Obviously, I'm going to try to take advantage. As you can see, one part of his army is on the right, far away from the rest of my battle line, where I have a lot of combat power in a tight zone or in a small space. As you can see, the density here of my combat power is much bigger than his. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And for that to work, basically, I need to push as hard as possible. So everything march forward. Except the incarnate that I was still aware that he might. So here I'm trying to force frenzy check, and basically aware that if he charge and overrun, there is nothing he can get, and I have everything set up in place to charge him. So the bull is here, the Titan goes on the hill to get rerollable charge pretty much against the top of the board. So I'm trying to catch those Sigio as soon as possible, or at least threaten them with a charge. And here still he's respecting this unit. I don't want to turn around right now. I'm continuing to try to cause him problem, because as long as I can stall his advance on the right, it's more time for my battle line to try to crush his in the middle of the board. So I just move sideways a 3, and here I move a bit backwards to leave him with a charge on a 10 plus, which was enough for me. If he tries it, we will see what I do. I can still flee. A lot of choices. Even if he end up here, I mean, nothing crazy he can do. And if he fail charge, I might cut too much forward in a bad way, so I can maybe push heavily afterwards. So I'm not sure I'm going to take that charge. Magic Face, I get Breast Weapon against the Carnosaur, do 2 wounds, which is really, really nice. And then I got a Rot Within against maybe also the Carno, I guess. And Mark for Doom was Dispel against the BSB Titanopod. Shooting out of range, he's turn 2. Continue to move away with those guys. Here I don't know, but for some reason decided to turn the Carnosaur around. So he was very concerned about this unit. So he marched forward here, losing 4 of the Saurus, which is annoying for him. And then basically he made sure that he has plenty of counter charge in case I do charge in his Saurus, which wouldn't be a good idea with so I don't have that many wounds to fight a huge combat block, and he has all the buffs in the world. He's going to be steadfast, so I think this counter charge is far enough. I don't know why he turned around the Carnosaur, to be honest, and the rest just move sideways. He feed me a first piece of chaff to try to slow down the advance. I think he wanted to avoid the Titan going in a spot like here with a 14 march, which would be really annoying for him, so he tried to slow me down a little bit. In the Magic Phase, he got regen on the BSB, again trying to protect him from magic and shooting. He got Stone Skin on the big brick here, I don't know why, because I'm not going to charge this unit. And then he got some shooting on the Canim Titan, but I was able to pass 2 saves on the 5-up. So luckily for me, I don't suffer any wounds. My turn 2, still no charges. I elected not to take the long charge here. I think it was like an 11 rerollable. I elected instead to charge. I could have, but it was too much of a long charge. I charged this one. He was inside BSB, but too far from leadership, so it's a low leadership, shaky, rerollable, minimize. He failed the terror, and I basically catch him. So I'm in the good spot here, pushing the anointed and covering the angle that those guys cannot escape in any way. And if they do, I'm going to catch them. Pushing the bull right here to also get in some nice spot. So yeah, really happy about that. I get the slave in a position to chaff both the BSB and the Cayman, and this allows me to push both the Bastion as well as the Cadim Incarnate. So I'm going to get the Bastion to shoot at the Titanopod, which is quite nice. And I was also able to push the brick here a little bit. So quite happy about that. I can also push the slave again. If I need to chaff next round, I want to be as close as possible. And here I continue to move sideways, continue to play this game of stalling him as much as possible. In Magic Phase, get a Grave Call against his BSB, which was a strength 6 Grave Call, but only get a wound. But then the Bastion is going to roll crazy, and with 20 shots on a 5-up, I'm going to get 4 wounds on the Titanopod, which is crazy. So he's down to 5 wounds, which is half his health point, which is quite nice for me. Let's move on to Eastern Tree. Let's see how he does react to that. So he didn't take any charge. He moves his Pterodon to double chaff me and those guys, the Spearback, to chaff the Titan. So using all the chaff to continue to move back with those guys, he marched them away, and he tried to form a battle line. So moving those guys back, but are still quite close. So he couldn't really avoid that, so he definitely needs to buff them as much as possible. And then he plays those guys, but without really looking at this part of the map. I think the Carno could have angled a bit more and maybe move a bit more back to protect this area. And my chaff is still alive, which is also an issue for him. Here he pushed, I think didn't take any charge, he just marched with 2 units, and he decided not to respect me anymore. So if I get that charge off, Basically, his idea would be to buff them, to avoid that combat. The only problem that he doesn't realize at this point of time in the game is if he buffs those guys, he doesn't buff them. And that would be a huge issue against the Incarnate. But we will see the choice that he makes in Magic in a second. So Magic happens. I'm focusing in dispelling some heal, also looking at what's going to do with those guys. I could wait one more round because I still have a chaff available that can chaff these 2 units in one go. So still I can charge 1 turn later, which is not really a problem. But it's going to get Stone Skin on the Raptors, which I let go. Obviously this doesn't allow me to charge anymore, but I felt if I get that charge off, it's much more important. So yeah, I let that go and I was able to dispel the heal spell, so quite nice. It doesn't heal any wound on the Carnosaur or the BSB, so that was for me also something very important. Let's move on to my turn. I have a couple of charges to take here, so I have the Kadim Titan into the Spearback, which passes the terror check. And then I charge as well with the big brick to get an overrun onto the Pterodon and to fight on his turn. I chaff again the Carnosaur, and here I got the charge on the 7 Swift onto the Cayman with an overrun onto the Spearback. So obviously looking juicy. Here I just move away, so I reform 1 wine, do a wheel, move away to get the charge as long as possible. So really nice. In the Magic phase, I'm going to get Hereditary on the Cayman, which is perfect because it gets me reroll hitting on 3+, and then wounding on 3+ rerollable, so this should be enough to do a lot of wounds. The Bastion does another 2 wounds to the Carnosaur, so he's down to 2 wounds, so again, really good from the Bastion. And close combat, I will manage to do a total of 13 wounds to the Cayman before they strike. They manage to do 4 wounds back, but it's an auto break. Unluckily for him, he passes the panic check here, which allows me to overrun into the flank here and get the famous free pivot that we really like in this game. So yeah, everything going well. Here I kill the chaff, overrun into the second one, and that's it. His turn 4. He march again on the right, trying to break through and catch those guys, but as you can see, his army is really split in 2, so it's not looking well. And he took some debatable decision. First of all is to charge the Carnosaur onto the chaff with so many units looking at him. Here, as you can see, I took the overrun, trying to block also the BSB would have been nice. But he tried to charge into the Bastion. I stand and shoot, managed to do 2 wounds, so he has only 3 wounds left, facing a crush attack, a couple of attack from me. And I mean, I have a free pivot here, so I can counter charge him in every possible way. So I felt this is very risky, and he failed the charge on a 10. So yeah, it's not looking good. I expected him to just back the 2 monsters, try to defend his points, basically try to recover and protect those 2 units. Maybe try to threaten a bit the Bastion to avoid me getting breakthrough with 3 units. Maybe that. The Stegosaur are finally trapped, so they just turn around, face me. And that's it. In close combat, obviously I kill the Spearback, he kills the Slave, and it's my turn. So those guys turn around, the free pivot, charge in the back of the Carnosaur. I send a big brick in the front, should be enough to do 2 wounds. The Kalim Titan is really happy to get his favorite target, which is the Titanopod, on 3 wounds remaining. And here I elected not to charge with the bull, I just place myself to chaff him in a minimized way. I don't want to engage in too many combats because I can buff those 2 combats. So I felt this is maybe smart to wait one more turn before engaging, and I prepare those guys as a counter charger. Here I was able to move out of the way as much as possible, and nothing crazy to mention here. In the Magic phase, I forgot to mention on his turn 4, he blow his mage on the stone skin he blow his mage on what? His turn 4. Where did he get stone skin? I think he got it on the Titanopod, maybe, or the Carnosaur. No, I think the Titanopod got the stone skin, but he blow his mage in the process. Basically, yeah, rolling 666. So he blow the slan in the process, which wasn't expected. Thank you for the present. Especially since they were going to die. It doesn't matter much. I think he got stone skin either on the Carnosaur or on the BSB, but they were going to die no matter what. I have reroll 2 wounds. Doesn't matter much. Yeah, Magic phase, I get the breast weapon on the Incarnate and reroll 2 wounds on the Titanopods to just give myself more chance of killing both. Obviously, Bastion's going to kill some Saurus to force panic check. Close combat, I kill the 2 targets. And let's move on to Eastern 5. Let's go a bit quicker. So yeah, everything's dying here. Just try to charge my bull. He attempted a long charge on the 9 onto those guys. He failed that one, meaning I can just move out of the way. And that's pretty much it. What I can tell, I'm going to eat the Stigio with the counter charge of the Titan. I made last round 4 wounds. He did 1 wound to me, so I won't combat, but he stick. So I just counter charge here. Here I push the Incarnate, but I'm not going to get any charge. Going to move out of the way. Going to move the Mage out of the unit. Breakthrough with these 2 units. 3 units. And here just get another half point of those guys with a breast weapon on turn 6. And that's basically how we ended up. So that's enough for me to get 20-0 because I got breakthrough and I got a lot of points just giving away 1 slave unit. So this is enough to get a very big win. So yeah, quite happy about how it went. What we can mention about this game, just to recap, drop game. I mean, we exchanged drop. I was a bit surprised that he was able to start, but has so much of an influence. I think here it's for me a good example of his captain gave him the instruction, try to play defensive, try to refuse the game and defend, but he didn't knew exactly how to execute it, and at some point he was still tempted to get charges because he wanted some action, maybe went a bit frustrated to not get what he wants, and that's the point where turn 4 he decided to double charge into the Chaff and the Bastion, and where he got counter charge and killed. So yeah, basically that's a point of time where he would have need to back up. I think also early on, trying to move around with the block, trying to stay on the right with the 2 unit was a big problem. Basically, I was able to fight him with most of my combat unit against only half of his army. And that was just a huge problem for him. Focused on breakthrough. And yeah, definitely wasted too much time on the right flank. I think the right option for me would have been to turn around with both the Cayman and the big brick, trying to apply pressure and then use the unit as a counter charger. So the how can I call them? The Raptor Riders as counter charger. Even if I charge in the flank of the big brick, it's not an issue. It could have also deployed slightly differently. I think more frontally what would also have been completely acceptable. I don't think that I overpowered him crazily in close combat. So he could have chosen a completely different approach. He could have also dropped for first turn and get a better deployment maybe. I think definitely the drop game didn't work that well for him. So yeah, that's what I can tell about this game. The rounds went really well for us, despite not having a very good pairing process. We only got 1 positive matchup and 3 matchups that we expected to be drawish. We still managed to come out on top and winning the round with capping. So this was perfect for us to get a very good last round. We climbed back to spot number 3, if I'm not mistaken, after the 4th round. So definitely going to battle for not the title because we are too far away from the Italian team who are going to play the final, but we were going to battle against our Swiss colleague, the Swiss Roots team ETC Switzerland, to try to get on the podium. So it's going to be an interesting last round. Guys, thanks a lot for watching the battle report. I hope you're doing well and talk to you soon on the channel. Bye bye.